You can either be limited based on ad rank, which means like you need to work on your campaigns, or you can be limited by budget, which means you need to spend more money because it's competitive.
You're listening to Reply Talk, a podcast designed to provide actionable marketing strategies and valuable insights around department marketing, hosted by Corbin Wright.
Another day, another podcast.
I know. This is 2 in a row for me.
2 in a row.
That's so exciting,
You're
right?
on a roll.
I'm on a roll.
You're on a roll.
I've come up with all the good podcasts.
I feel like you're a fan favorite. Everybody just wanted you back.
We'll go with that one.
And today we're going to talk about how to generate a PPC budget for an apartment community.
Yeah, exactly. So generating a PPC budget for an apartment community is a lot like generating one for any other kind of campaign, e-commerce, or any other kind of lead gen, but there are a couple of special things that we do at Reply to tailor it specifically to multifamily.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
All right. Well,
All
let's
right.
hop right in. And I know that you always have a nice little outline of things that you want to discuss in this, and I will just kind of fill in because this is your forte. Like, you're really, really good at forecasting budgets, and I'll add in my 2 cents.
Yeah, you bring that good multifamily perspective into things where sometimes they get too far in the PPC weeds. Okay, so really what we have today is kind of 4 steps and then like some helpful hints at the end to kind of like help you provide context around like the steps we go through to create a budget. And there are some proprietary things that we use that aren't in here because it's kind of our secret sauce.
Hey.
But like this is a great jumping off point if you're like, I have no idea what I want to spend on PPC, or ownership has just given us a bunch of money to spend on marketing. How much of it should I spend on PPC? So
Sure.
Here's how you would go about figuring it out. So the first thing you need to do is think about what outcome you're looking for in your SEM campaigns. So are you looking for, and those tend to come in 3 flavors, right? So people are either looking at for leads at a target cost per lead. They're looking for as much exposure as possible for a community. So there's a specific example I'm going to use later on for one of our communities. And then the last thing is, are you looking for just as many leads as humanly possible to this community? Say you're really struggling with occupancy and you just need to get people into the door. So that's the last one. So
possibly like a lease up.
Right, exactly. You're trying to get people in there. So like leads at a target cost per lead would be great for like a stable deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, so like if your occupancy is really high and you want to make sure that you're spending marketing dollars really efficiently and getting like the right people into the door, that's great. Exposure is great for a community that is in like the pre-leasing phase. So we have a community with Pegasus called Sentosa Beach Walk. It's not built yet, but it's super luxury, really high end in Florida, and they went through like a really long pre-leasing phase. So our goal with them was obviously lead generation, but we want to get them exposure, right? We want to get their community as in front of as many eyes as we could. So
Sure.
we use that, and then, like we said, lease ups as many leads as humanly possible.
Absolutely.
So after you've identified your outcome, you want to do your keyword research, right? So you want to take kind of like the seed list of keywords that you would usually use in any apartment marketing SEM campaign, and then add some community specific stuff in there. So if they're in like a really great school district and that has volume or something like that, like, or any other
key location call outs.
Exactly.
Targeted areas that you want to really focus on. That,
right.
And I think that's, I just want to touch on that. So with a more established, stable community, you are going to know where people are coming from, whether that's a close by, nearby employer, or whether that's a school or a university. But when you've got lease up deals or development deals, that can be a little bit trickier, and that's where you kind of have to get creative. And Sentosa is kind of that way too, where it's like they just plop this place right down on it, and it's a new concept, and they got this crystal lagoon, and it's like, what do I
You kind of have to build the demand for it there with like maybe some supporting social, but that's another podcast for another day. Okay.
Absolutely.
So step 2 is your keyword research. So take your base like seed list of community terms that you would kind of use, like apartments in Dallas or apartments in Fort Worth. Like you're going to use those in all of your SEM campaigns. So take those and then add to them. So if there are variants that have a lot of volume, or if you have historical data that tells you like, oh, these typically do really well with, a particular area, use those. And then move into step 3, which is data mining. So you're going to go into a few different tools. So we use SEMrush as well as the Keyword Planner tool in Google Ads. and then historical data from our ads accounts to estimate like traffic numbers.
Yep.
And then also get average cost per click estimates. And those are going to come into play kind of in step 4 where we put it all together. So you're going to want to take those average CPCs, those traffic estimates, and the historical data for like your average cost per lead in a certain area. So if you've got like 10 communities in Dallas already, you want to look at the average cost per lead in those campaigns, especially if they've been running for longer than like 120 days.
Gotcha.
You're going to want to take that impression share data and look at that. So how does your impression share look for campaigns in similar areas, and what are you spending there? So we have a campaign, a community in San Antonio that I think it spends maybe like $1,500 a month, $1,800, and the search impression share is so low, we're not losing any due to ad rank. We're mostly losing it due to budget. So there, it's not because your ads suck, it's because you need more budget. So you can use that impression share data in step 4 to inform what your budget range should be.
Explain a little bit about search impression share, just high level.
So impression share is the number of impressions you are eligible to receive, right? So
from that search.
Yeah, from that particular query. So then, when compared to the number of impressions you actually receive. So they're going to give you, it's like click-through. They're going to give you a percentage. They're going to take the two numbers, compare them, and give you a percentage. So like if it's like 20%, you receive 20% of the impressions that you're eligible to receive for that particular query. And you can either be limited based on ad rank, which means like you need to work on your campaigns, or you can be limited by budget, which means you need to spend more money because it's competitive.
And that happens in a lot of the metro markets, like the very, very competitive markets.
And you see high CPCs there, like Buckhead particularly, it's like $8 a click or something on average.
Well, Google's smart, and they just want to they got to make their money.
Got to make the money.
Yep, absolutely. And just to touch on search impression or on impression share, also taking that into consideration of the time of year and your demand for leasing, and making sure that like if you don't have units, apartment homes to rent, you don't necessarily need that visibility.
Right, exactly.
And you don't need to be raising your budget. Right. It's kind of common sense, but like there are situations where it's like, hey guys, what's your occupancy at?
Right.
Do you need this?
Exactly.
And then if it's your occupancy is low or it's suffering and you've got a low search impression share, then you need to get that up because visibility is the name of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to take all of that data and put it all together. So there are a few different formulas that you can use as like a jumping off point to calculate your budget. So if you're looking for, it's a stable deal and you're looking for leads at a particular target, like you and your internal teams have worked together and come up with like, you're like, I want leads at $50 a lead from SEM. So what you're going to do is take like the number of desired leads and multiply that by the average cost per lead. And that's how you're going to get your kind of ideal budget. And this is kind of going into the helpful hints, but like, you need to use a range, right? You're not going to say you need to spend exactly $1,963 on PPC this month. Like you're like, all right, so I'm going to take like the maximum and minimum for my average cost per lead and come up with a range based on that. So you're going to take that like maximum cost per lead, like the most you're willing to pay, and multiply that by the number of leads that you need for that community and get that budget number. And it's going to be a good starting off point. With this one, you kind of need to work within like an established campaign because you need data.
You need data behind it.
Yeah,
you need
exactly.
to be able to see what your average monthly conversions
exactly.
are. Yes.
And you don't always hit that average cost per lead that you want in the first like 90 days of a campaign because it takes time in even the first 120 days of a campaign. It takes time for things to ramp up and for you to optimize and figure out what's working, what's not working, for Google to trust you, especially if it's a new account or a new campaign, and give you good quality scores. So like if you're doing target cost per lead, wait until you have a little bit of data and wait until the campaign is a little more established.
Sure.
As far as exposure goes, so you want to take, this is probably the easiest one, you want to take the like minimum and maximum desired traffic numbers to your website and multiply that by the average CPC for whatever you researched in steps 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So like that's going to give you a nice like start here and maybe cap out here range for exposure. And as many leads as humanly possible, you're going to kind of need to do a little bit of like Rain Man stuff, and take that historical data and then maybe take into account some of Google's estimates too, for, generating as many leads as possible. So go back into a campaign with a good conversion rate, which at Reply, we kind of start at 3%, ideally better than that.
Yep.
And see how much traffic you can expect to receive for that budget and kind of base your recommendation based on that. So just get a good informed jumping off point and keep it moving from there.
Sure.
And then at the end, some helpful hints. So like we said, ranges give you a lot of wiggle room, especially for new accounts and campaigns. So like there's no one who's going to be able to come to you and say you need to spend exactly this number on PPC to get this
X
or that.
leads.
And if they tell you that, run the other way really fast because
Might be smoking something.
Yeah, probably, or they like don't know what they're talking about. So, and then the last thing to remember is that there is no right answer to the budget question, right? So there are informed answers and there are uninformed answers. Informed answers really take into account all of the stuff we mentioned previously and use actual numbers. Even if you don't have a lot or if you don't have historical data, like there is data that you can pull to make an informed decision. And uninformed answers are just kind of like figures plucked out of the air.
Yeah.
So like you get a number from ownership or
investments
something.
in there. It's like, hey, we've got this much, and it's like
spend it. And I'm like, we see this sometimes where they're like, we have to spend this money. We have to spend this money this month right now. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can probably do that for you, but you're not going to hit those like target cost per lead goals or like other target campaign metrics. So,
and that's why we really encourage a seasonal budgeting strategy, because this is demand driven. And when you get outside of that, if you have to spend it, there's better things to spend it on.
Exactly.
Whether that's from a creative side, maybe putting that money into some sort of budget to do creative.
Test other ad formats, right?
Yes.
So like if you have an ideal PPC budget or if you have an established campaign that's working really well at a target budget, take that extra money and like test some Facebook ads or I can't believe I'm going to say this, but test some display maybe.
Yeah.
Like we all know.
But it all goes into like taking that money and putting it towards some sort of creative project,
Useful,
whether it's a video or whether
exactly.
it's something that's actually going to have, I guess, more equity or longevity, and being able to use it across different channels, whether that's on your website, your landing page, and that's where we kind of have this high level look at your whole digital marketing efforts of like, let's not just throw this money away.
Right, exactly.
Let's really
see what we can do with it. And inevitably investments or operations is going to come to you one day and be like, oh, have we done Facebook here? Have we done this or that here? And with that money that you've taken from PPC that you chose not to waste, you can say, yeah, we have. Here are some initial results.
Yes.
Like this might be a viable strategy for this community, or, we tried it with a little bit of money a couple months ago and it didn't work out so well. So maybe we should try something else.
Exactly.
So.
Like it.
Yeah. So that's kind of PPC budget calculations and initial use in a nutshell.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that was a quick hitter. I liked it. I mean, I think that it's super, it was informative, but what we're going to do is we're going to kind of have an overview and put this on a video. And if you guys have any questions about PPC or budgets, or if you need some sort of validation or verification of if you are spending the right amount of money, give us a call, hit us up, shoot us an email, and ask us to do a little audit of your account or a budget recommendation.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Reply Talk, and we will see you on the next one next week.
See you next time.
See ya.